Luke Howarth. Luke Howarth is the member for Petrie. And as you heard on ABC Radio News today, all participants and carers in the National Disability Insurance Scheme who are aged 16 years and over are eligible to receive the COVID-19 vaccines from today. Leaders last week approved the expansion of the NDIS vaccination eligibility at the National Cabinet meeting on Friday. National Cabinet is where all the state premiers or their representatives meet with the Commonwealth leaders and the Prime Minister and nut out what to do next. Luke Howarth is the LNP member for Petrie and the Assistant Minister for Youth and Jobs. Luke Howarth, this takes place from today, so how do people who are on the NDIS, either carers or participants, what do they need to do?
Well, thanks, Steve. If they're 16 plus, they just need to log on to health.gov.au website. So if they get onto the health.gov.au website, there's an eligibility checker there that they'll click on, and it'll say, when can I get a COVID-19 vaccine? Press the start button, you enter your age, your state, whether you've had the first dose yet, whether you're Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, whether you work in quarantine or border issues, and obviously there'll be a part there that mentions about care workers and NDIS. So you click all that on, and then that will register for their interest to receive the vaccine. That's all they need to do, get onto health.gov.au and follow those prompts.
So National Cabinet decided on Friday that those who are 16 or over, today is their day and they can do it right away. They're now eligible.
Yes, okay. Yes, that's correct.
Have you had your vaccine yet, Luke Howarth?
Well, what I have had this week, Steve, is my birthday. On Queensland Day, I had my birthday, and I'm still in my 40s, but I'm actually registered to have the vaccine as well. So I just have done that. So I haven't had it yet. No.
Okay, so you've not had the vaccine yet. Okay, so do you know which vaccine you'll be getting? I assume it's the Pfizer one, is it?
Yeah, because I'm in my 40s, I'm assuming it'll be the Pfizer one. That's correct. It actually, when I did it online, it did say that. So I got onto health.gov.au as well and just typed in my age and state and everything else, like I just mentioned. And when I typed in my age, they said, you'd be eligible for Pfizer. So
okay. You're a young man, Luke Howarth.
Well, I'm only just in my 40s.
So yeah, you're a young man.
People can look it up, but yeah, I'm only just in my 40s. So I don't know if I'm a young man. I'm not feeling as young as I used to. I'm trying to do a bit of running at the moment for the Jetty to Jetty coming up soon in my electorate, so which is a fun run. So
all right,
yeah.
My guest is Luke Howarth, the LNP member for Petrie and Assistant Minister for Youth and Jobs. This is ABC Radio Brisbane. The state government has delivered a detailed, more fulsome report to the Commonwealth, a much more detailed outline for their suggestion of a quarantine hub near Toowoomba, the other side of Toowoomba, and it's substantially greater than the previous one. Is this something the state should have done earlier, and does this answer all the questions the Commonwealth was seeking?
Well, look, I know the Prime Minister was on your show a few weeks ago, Steve, and you interviewed him on that, and obviously they needed much more detail than what was given. It's good that they've given more detail, so I'm not sure if it answers all the questions they were after.
Okay.
But it sounds to me like it's not supported out there at Toowoomba. So when I heard what the Prime Minister said on your show, and I've spoken to the member for Groom as well, who doesn't seem to think it's a great idea, but I did note this morning too that the Chief Health Officer was on Rebecca Livingstone this morning, and she didn't seem to think it was such a great idea when you read between the lines. Jeanette Young, she was just basically saying that, the hotel quarantine's working really well and that Toowoomba was a long way away from a local hospital. So
I heard that as well. I'll actually play that now because this intrigued me. Queensland's Chief Health Officer appeared to pour cold water on whether a quarantine hub was needed at Wellcamp at all. Let me just play you what she said.
Should Queensland have a dedicated quarantine hub?
We're using hotels at the moment.
moment very effectively, and I actually went to a delightful function last night that the Hotels Association recognised the hotels that have been involved, and they've done a fantastic job.
Okay, well, let me just jump in there, though. Although it's been effective and we've been fortunate here in Queensland, there have been dozens of case transmissions, though, in other states and, in fact, some here in Queensland, where the source of the leak has been hotel quarantine.
There has been. Yes, that's true.
So I guess my question is, do you support the Wellcamp proposal of a dedicated hub in Toowoomba?
There are some difficulties with it in terms of its location. So I understand that they need to be worked through.
Okay, but
that would be possible.
But do you think that hub should replace hotel quarantine?
I think if we could have fairly quickly an alternative, that would be good. But we've got to remember that the risks in hotel are actually decreasing. So if we think from the start of the pandemic through to now, we've got a whole lot more systems in place. So we're testing staff every single shift. All of our staff have now received 2 doses of the vaccine. We've trained them in using the P2 N95 masks, and they're using those. We're using CCTV footage in corridors rather than having people sitting in corridors where the highest risk is. So we've done a whole lot of other things to mitigate the risk.
That's Queensland's Chief Health Officer, Dr. Jeanette Young, with Rebecca Livingston on ABC Radio this morning, pouring cold water on the idea that there is a quarantine hub needed at Wellcamp, saying that there are difficulties with the location. Luke Howarth, so am I misreading that? Is that how the federal government sort of sees it? That the argument for a quarantine hub there is not strong, as the Chief Health Officer of Queensland seems to be indicating?
Yeah, look, I don't think that will go ahead from what I've heard, and so I think obviously Jeanette Young doesn't think it should go ahead either. If you listen to.
You there?
Not going to go ahead. So, but I would say the federal government wants, if there's a proposal that will significantly increase more numbers that are able to be quarantined, so we can bring more people in and be properly quarantined, that would be good. But 99 and I think 0.7% of hotel quarantines have worked extremely well. There's been small breakouts, but I just would say too, with a well camp, it doesn't mean even if you set up a well camp that there won't be issues with that as well. It might be 99.7% successful. Nothing's sort of 100%, if you know what I mean.
All right, but the way that...
I think obviously they're doing a good job, and if there is a proposal, yeah.
All right, the way that sounds to me, I'm not...
Sorry, Steve.
It sounds like there's a delay in the system. You dropped out before, so I'll keep persevering in the hope that you can hear me okay, but Jeanette Young seemed to be pouring cold water on the whole idea, so I'll move on. You're the Assistant Minister for Youth and Jobs, Luke Howarth, and last week I think it was last week or the week before, I spoke with Lockyer Valley farmers who were desperate for workers. They had thousands of jobs going, pay rates had gone up to for their workers they were looking for. Is the federal government doing anything to encourage young people to get into the work that's available in either the Lockyer Valley, for instance?
Well, we are doing things, but I know in my own region, young people don't really seem to be interested in wanting to go out there and do that. And I only say that from my own experience over the last 5 or 6 years when I've spoken to Year 12 leavers about what their options are when they finish school. And I've said to them, look, if you're not going to study or you want to go and work and you don't have commitments, as in you're not paying a house off or you're not married or whatever, you might want to go and pick fruit and see a bit of the country, and jump in your car and go out there. And I have these harvest guides that I offer to people where they can explore a bit of the country, earn some money, and go from one place to another. And I've literally spoken to thousands of young people, and in that time, I reckon 2 people have come and said, yeah, I'm interested in that. But in saying that, the federal government is doing a lot, like there's relocations assistance for people to move move out there. So if you want to move to the Lockyer Valley, or if you're listening now and you're unemployed, or you need work, or you just want a lifestyle change, the federal government is giving funding to relocate there. A couple of $1,000, and then if you're there for a few weeks working, I think it's 120 hours over 4 weeks, there's another $6,000. So you can get up to $8,000 in relocation assistance from the Morrison government, and that's for anyone over 17-year-olds. It's called AgMove, and school leavers can now take a gap year and go out there and do it. And I must say too, the housing's cheap out there. If you go out to the Lockyer Valley, you can, there's houses advertised out there for a couple of $100,000. So people might want to do that just for a bit of a change and do something different. There's definitely work out there if people want to do it, and there's assistance from the federal government.
So you can be paid to move to a regional area like the Lockyer Valley to get work, and the federal government will pay you up to $8,000 to relocate or to move.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's called AgMove, and in this year's budget there's millions allocated to it, but basically $2,000 in relocation assistance when they complete just 40 hours of agricultural work over a 2-week period, and then if they do another 120 hours after that for the next 4 weeks, there's a further $6,000 for Australian workers. If they're temporary visa holders, like not Australian, it's $2,000. It's not as high. The Australians get the $8,000, but there is incentives there to get people out onto our farms picking fruit, and it's a great time to do it, if you're looking for a bit of a change.
Luke Howarth, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Steve.
Luke Howarth is the LNP member for Petrie. So so this year you'll have your relocation costs covered up to $2,000 after completing 40 hours of work in at least 2 weeks. This is for anyone over 17, by the way. You'll receive up to a further $4,000 of relocation costs after completing 120 hours of work in at least 4 weeks. And if you're a visitor or a temporary visa holder, up to $2,000 for you, with general working rights like working holiday makers and some international students. They'll give you $650 for relocation costs after completing 40 hours of work, with a further $1,350 for relocation costs after completing 120 hours of work in at least 4 weeks. In other words, they're paying people to relocate to get employment. Details, it's called AgMove. It should be online, otherwise contact your local federal member of Parliament. They'll help you with the details.
Jack Irish is back on ABC TV.